Welcome back to Better Together. I am Shawn Sundsvold, joined by my wife and co-host, Kelly. Today's guest is Adi Klevit, founder of Business Success Consulting Group and host of the Systems Simplified podcast. With over 30 years of experience as an industrial engineer and consultant, Adi helps businesses across industries build systems that streamline, scale, and sustain growth. What started as a passion for process has become a thriving firm helping entrepreneurs create order, delegate with confidence, and grow without burning out. In this episode, we'll talk about the early days of building her business, what she's learned from working with hundreds of leaders, and why systems aren't about control, but freedom. If you're in the weeds or trying to scale what you built, this one is for you. Adi, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun conversation. I know in our initial intro call, we had some connections early on, so I think it's going to make it really fun for the conversation. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. What inspired you to launch Business Success Consulting Group, and what did those first couple years really look like for you?
Yeah, so when I first started, I've done business consulting for a long time, and I was working for another company, and I decided that I want to have my own company. And I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, and I had other small companies. And then I decided I'm a very good strategist. I know how to consult. I'm going to start a consulting company. And I immediately had several clients that followed me, and I consulted them, and it was great. And then it grew. And one of my advice used to be to my clients is, you need processes documented in order for you to really implement everything. And they would say, yeah, I know I do, but nothing would happen. I mean, it's the same conversation week after week. You need processes. Yes, I know, but, and then go, well, how about if I actually do it for you? I go, really? You're going to do it for us? And I said, yeah. So I started with one client and actually done it for them, documented their processes. And I saw the result, and I saw what it actually created, that now they had documented processes and procedures that can be followed, that they know what they're doing, that it eliminated and decreased the chaos. And then I realized that there is something here, there is a niche. I mean, that's how I've stumbled upon that niche. I knew that processes are important, and I already knew, that was my passion, is to create processes, is to optimize, is to implement, is to bring order. So the combination of both of stumbling upon that niche and the need and my already initial inclination and skill in doing that, that's how it got started.
Kind of looping back to your experience, you had experience running businesses before this. How was launching this company different?
Well, I mean, it was different in terms of I had to learn how to network. I had to learn how to get clients. I had to learn what worked and what works, what doesn't work. And it was very interesting. I mean, it was definitely a great experience. And I met wonderful people along the line. I met mentors. I met people that I was able to observe and learn from. So it is definitely, it's different. It's different when it's your own than to help others. But there's also a lot of similarities. So I learned a lot already. I already knew how to run a business. So there were things there that were not new, and I didn't feel like I have to figure out, but there were a lot of things that I had to figure out.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little more, especially around like mindset, right? When you come from working in other places that aren't your own business to now running your own business, you have to do a lot of mindset changes. What were some of the ones that you had to make in those early years when you realized that you needed to build something that could last?
Yeah, when you start building a company, you don't know really if it's going to last or not, right? I mean, you need a proof of concept. You need to figure out that you are going to get clients. And once that happens, then oh, okay, I have something here. I have something that will last. And I think at that point, creating the systems, that's really what creates a company, an organization, and something that lasts. So it's not just something that is one-off. You create your onboarding system. You create the system on how to get feedback from clients. You create a system on what to deliver and how to deliver. You create a system on for your marketing system, etc. So HR system, accounting system. So once you have those systems in place, you know that it feels like you have a real company because things are moving along, they're operating, they're functioning, and you have that stability.
Yeah, for sure. So a big part of what you do is obviously helping businesses implement processes and helping them build, figure out, learning about their business so that the processes can be right. But for people who may hear that word and think rigid or complicated, how do you explain the value of process in growing a business and being able to scale?
Yeah, so I think I'm a believer that the person knows. It's just a matter of asking the right questions so they can see for themselves. Because if they don't see for themselves, then it's not for them because they're not going to be successful. You have to be all in and you have to be very much convinced or dedicated to the idea of creating processes. So I will always ask questions like, why processes? Why document? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. I mean, what's going on right now that if you had well-documented processes and procedures, you will do better. And usually the answers are consistency. I have different people that are doing different things and it's not consistent. Or risk mitigation. I mean, some customers are happy, some are not, because it really depends on the person that is handling them. It can be knowledge transfer and fear of knowledge walking out when a key employee walks out with all the knowledge or something happens to them. It might be a lot of things that I hear a lot is like, I just want people to stop asking me all these questions because all day long people ask me questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you decide on this? Well, if you have well-documented processes and procedures, then you are not going to get repeated questions. People coming into your office at all hours of the day and asking those questions. It can be that somebody wants to exit, but they are so integral to the business that they can't step out. So that is another reason. So entrepreneurs know the reason why they need systems. They know the reason why they need processes. It's just a matter of really making sure that that reason is strong enough so they can push through and do something about it.
Yeah. I think one of the things you mentioned there, in that conversation was you have to make a commitment to building processes, right?
Right.
And as Kelly joked, there are a process person and a non-process person in our business. I will freely admit I am the non-process person, but I am trying to put myself in the shoes of your clients, right? What are some of the common resistance points you see from entrepreneurs who want to systemize, but they're like me, right? And how do you help them overcome that and get to that point to get them on board with you?
Okay, that's a great question, Shawn. So let me ask you, if you don't mind, I'm not putting you on kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm going to show you how I do that. So
Okay.
right now, like what is preventing you? I mean, do you understand the importance of processes and procedures? Well documented.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
So in your opinion, in your viewpoint, if you had well-documented processes and procedures in your business, what changes would you see?
Consistency is probably a big one, obviously, because if there's a process that's documented, I can think of like a kitchen or something else that, I'm a huge fan of Restaurant Impossible, and it's kind of the same thing, right? You come in, you build consistency around your recipes, around your, how you take care of people at a table, or how somebody runs the front, right? That same thing by having processes in place for all those things, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. So then we're going to have a conversation about what's happening right now. Like, how does it really have an effect on you? Like, does it really prevent you from achieving your goals and the scale and everything? And you have to convince me that, yes, you can see that. So then I will ask you, okay, well, you told me all the reasons. So Shawn, why are you not documented? So why are you not documenting your processes? Why are your processes not documented?
Simple answer, just speaking truthfully for myself, I don't want to take the time to write it down. Because it's, to me, the process of the writing it down, that's the painful part of the process.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, it's not that I don't believe in it, and I will do my best to follow my own process every single time, but because I don't want to take the time to write it down, I can't follow it consistently. And I know that.
And that makes sense. So what if I told you that we can spend now a certain amount of time, and at the end of it, you're going to have the playbook of your company, and you will be able to, and not only that, we're also going to train your employees on how to use it.
And if I don't have to be a huge part of that process, I love it.
I mean, I will need your involvement, just so you know, because that's what we tell the client. But all I need from you is basically 90 minutes a week.
I'll make time for that. And I think most entrepreneurs probably would, because they see the value in that eventually gets off their plate. Right.
Exactly. So that's why we came up with the system that we have, because we feel that any successful entrepreneur it's really important for them to document will be able to give us 90 minutes, a week. So, and we don't just work with the owner, we also work with the staff to extract information, to take the key information, to put it together. So it's a done it for you. At the end of it, you're going to have a playbook with everything written, with the videos, screenshot, explanations, and we're also going to make sure that your staff knows about it and they're trained on it.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
So I thought that was a really good example
Mm-hmm.
that you just did. Kind of, Shawn is obviously not the process person, but, and we're not picking on you, I promise.
I own it.
But for people who are listening that aren't process people like Shawn, which, are a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, or they're just so busy, trying to do the day-to-day, they forget, oh yeah, if I'm scaling this, I need help. Is there a moment, maybe in a past client, current client that you have where you see them going from like overwhelmed to empowered just by getting that process in place?
Absolutely. I have many testimonials on my website. I mean, one of them that I really like is a client that by doing that, he was able to take a vacation where he hasn't been able to take a vacation for a long time.
Yeah.
Or another client was able to actually attend his kids' baseball games that he wasn't before. Another one that really was able to empower the employees and retain them because they are now trained. Another client that doubled the value of their business and were able to exit and sell it because they had all those the processes documented. So many stories like that really makes a difference. And also clients that were able to install or implement a computer, like an IT system, for instance, an ERP or a system that they needed in order to improve the business, to automate the business, because now they knew the processes and how they're working. So now they were able to get an implementer of that system to actually automate some of the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love that because it's such an important thing to get your people on board and to have them get that first result, right? Because once they see that first moment of things working and moving forward, it's a lot easier, I'm sure, to bring them along and help them see what that future could look like.
Yes. That's correct. And I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit. We talked about this in the beginning, but you are the host of the Systems Simplified podcast. You've got over 400 episodes on Apple, podcasts from what I can see. What's been one story specifically or a couple stories in doing your podcast that have really stuck out with you or stuck out to you, in just those conversations?
Wow. It's a big question because 400 and something episodes is 400 and something guests, and each one of them is unique. Each one of them is super interesting. And I learned so much from each and every one of the guests. I really learned from them. I learn new things that are possible. I get inspired. I learned stories. Even last week I was recording an episode and I asked my guests about their story, their life story, and I wasn't expecting what came out. It was very vulnerable, very real, but I could totally understand how that person is the person that they are today. Usually I record for 20, 30 minutes and the episode just went on and on because I was so interested and he was interested in talking. So I think those stories, the real stories, the stories that people share and are vulnerable and they share their experience, they share their failures, they share their successes. This is something that other entrepreneurs are definitely interested in listening and learning.
Yeah. Just kind of a follow-up question on that is what led you to want to start the podcast after you'd had the business and it's growing successfully? What led you to decide that we want to add a podcast to this?
Yes, it was during the pandemic. And before that, I did a lot of in-person networking in my area. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and that's the area that I was concentrated on. And we all experienced that March 2020, no more networking. And I got invited to participate in a podcast, and I did it. I go like, wow, that was fun. And then when no more networking and when, about April or May, when I had to figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do things, I realized that, hey, I can just start my own podcast and help other entrepreneurs that don't have also the ability to network or to promote themselves to come on as guests. And it actually took me it was into March 2021 when I started, but that's really what happened is that I heard other colleagues doing it. I realized that podcasting is something that I enjoy doing. I'm interested in people. I want to talk to people, and I got started.
Something you said just a few minutes ago about learning from your podcast guests, I will definitely concur to that. We've had some amazing guests already on this podcast. We just kicked this off and really at the end of 2025. And the guests are just amazing to learn from, including yourself. So which I know that's something that you have experienced also, you mentioned learning from them. What are other ways that podcast hosting has impacted the way you consult or even how you run your own business?
So again, it is ideas and opinions and advice that I hear and go, oh, wow, I can try that. I mean, for instance, I had a guest on my podcast that she was talking about how she improves her own client services and what she does. And I go, that's a really good idea. I should try that. And I told my marketing manager, let's try that.
You're good. Yep. Go ahead. I was waiting for that.
I know.
Girl, I've been there.
We'll just mark it.
Yep. No, it's fine. I need a drink anyways.
Jacob, I told her 1:30, so she's got a couple minutes. Huh? Just checking.
Okay, I think I'm good to continue. I don't know how long, but I'm okay. I mean, I wish it didn't also go together with the nose being red and the eye puffy, but it's okay. It's like, that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Shawn, I think
All right. Yeah. All right. So one of the things now, like we said, or just a minute ago, doing 400 episodes and talking to all these different people, are there any surprising trends you've noticed across entrepreneurs or business leaders that you've interviewed?
That's a good question in terms of looking at the trends. I think it's really a lot of conversations around AI and trying to figure out what is the future? What can I do in order to stay ahead of it? How can I utilize it better? Different opinions and ideas around that. So I think that's the trend that I see. I'm sure you do it as well. You see it as well, right?
Yeah. It's, I think the biggest trend I see is that we love the stories of, that somebody put a plan together and they got to the end, right? And but we don't hear is like some of the struggles underneath, right? Like, what did it take them to get there? And I think that's one of the biggest trends I see is that more and more people want to hear those stories, right? Of what were the ups and the downs in the middle of it that, how did you solve that problem at 2:00 in the morning when you knew you had stuff to do the next couple of days, right? Just what were those struggle points? And I think that's the biggest thing is people are willing to tell more of that than they used to is just something I've seen.
That is correct. Yeah.
So you've been doing this a long time, like 15 years, which is awesome. What do you wish every entrepreneur understood before they launched a business?
It takes work. It's not an easy overnight thing. I mean, it does take work, but if you persist and you surround yourself with the right people, the right mentors, you learn, you observe, you try, you do, you're going to be successful, but it takes work. It definitely takes dedication and it takes work.
Yeah. Over the course of your business, I'm sure a lot of beliefs and mindsets and things have changed. What's one thing you believe and understand now that you didn't really know or understand in your first year or two of doing business?
That I can't do it all myself. That's for sure. That I got to delegate. I got to build an organization there, that I need to get help when I need to get help, and that I need to delegate. I mean, that's, I said that, but that's really the main thing.
Yeah. I think one of the things that caught me in our early conversation, right, our very first conversation was you had to learn delegation the hard way, right? Of that process. How does building better processes for a business help a founder do that and learn to let go?
Well, I think there are a lot of ways how it does it, but I think the main way is that it forces you to really think about how do you think? What makes why are you so valuable to the business outside of your ego? What makes you so valuable is because you know how to make decisions faster. Well, how do you make decisions? Because you think about different situations. Well, how do you think? You make decisions in a certain way. Well, what makes you make that decision? So I think once you identify that, you identify more of the things behind the procedures, like the why behind it, the intangible things that you make it tangible. Once you understand that, then you are able to delegate it because you are basically cloning yourself. We all heard that, oh yeah, I wish I can be cloned. But why? What is it that you want to clone? Just the good things and just the things that you are so successful at and that you are efficient at. And I think those are the important things that you need to clone or you need to duplicate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it before on this podcast, but our first act of delegation was our accounting. It was probably about 6 months into our business. And we were like, nope, neither one of us are accountants. I'm a newbie at QuickBooks. This is not going to be an area I want to screw up. So we hired a bookkeeper. So it definitely can make a difference, finding those areas where you're weak. And back to your point about if you are able to delegate off something to an admin or a virtual assistant, a lot of times people will just say, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. The virtual assistant's going to solve all my problems. But if you don't make up the processes and have clear delegation, it's just going to be a mess. So for someone who first feeling overwhelmed and wearing all the hats, what's one step besides calling you can they take this week to start building real systems into their business?
Right. So identify what is that process that you want to start with. Ask yourself what area of your business, if you had well-documented processes and procedures, will get you the biggest return on investment. That's what you want to know first. And why? Maybe it's accounting. Good. So what is it that you do in accounting? Well, you do this, this, and this, and that. Good. Record a video on how you do it. Find somebody that can do it for you. Give them that video and tell them, okay, I'm paying you to do that. I want you to do that. That's a start. I know it sounds very easy or simple, and it is. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just start somewhere, and then it will go from there to another thing and another thing and another thing.
Exactly. And then, like one of the things Shawn and I have always lived by is hiring people who in areas that are smarter than us. So, when you hand it off, like in your example, they might see something like, hey, if we did this and, or hey, what about if we try this instead? Like they can evolve the business even further. So having a clear understanding of that, I'm sure I can imagine is good for businesses.
Absolutely. And Kelly, on that point, like on accounting, I'm very good at accounting. I actually had a bookkeeping company, but I realized that, me doing my own bookkeeping in my company, it's not worth my time. I can utilize that time in order to record another podcast, to write an article. So I hired a bookkeeper. So it can be those areas that, yes, you want people that are smarter than you and that do things better, but also tasks and action that you need to delegate to others because you only have that many hours in the day.
Very good point. Yeah. Very, very good point. What's something that you've had to kind of unlearn in this journey and like an assumption about business or leadership that just really didn't hold up?
One of the things that I learned is that the human connection is very, very important, that there is no substitute to that. We went very digital, very online, but when we were able to meet again after the pandemic, I really realized that people were missing it. They're missing that real connection, the face-to-face, seeing each other. There is nothing wrong of having meetings online. I mean, we met online and we are having this conversation online, but you have to balance it also with going to in-person networking events, meeting with people, having that human connection is very, very important.
Yeah. I love that human connection aspect of it. I think it's super important, even in the digital age, and it's almost like a skill that's getting lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's one that as business owners, it's really important to keep it, to continue to learn how to have those face-to-face conversations, because you can learn so much more from somebody in a 15-minute face-to-face conversation than you can even in a 15 to 30-minute Zoom conversation, right? There's just so many more body things that you can pay attention to as far as like, facial reactions, body reactions, all those different interpersonal things that we learn. So yeah, definitely believe that that's a huge piece of that. So thank you. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. How can people find you, Adi, and learn more about, the consulting work that you do?
Yes. So I'm on LinkedIn, so you can look me up. It's Adi Klevit, and I think I'm the only one there, so you can find me. You can also call or text at 503-662 2911. Our website is Biz Success CG for consulting group. So BIZ success spelled out CG.com. So bizsuccesscg.com. And you can email me adi@bizsuccesscg.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for all that. And we'll have that in the notes as well in the description so everybody can find that. Adi, thank you so much for your time today. I've loved the conversation. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Yeah, and thank you both. It was a great conversation.
Bye.
Bye-bye.